Who the hell is this guy? What's he want? Where's he come from? After every soldier I have with him and he kicks their ass. Outman. Outgunned. And he walks away clean. With my money. Now what are y'all gonna do about that?
Turn us loose, Tuna.
Let us do what we do.
Where did you go? I know you didn't just up and leave. A man like you has too much work to do in Flores Park to just disappear on me now. You want to finish what you started. I don't know what stopped you, but I can help you get back on the proverbial horse. And to ride again. I can give you the means to take your operation to the next level. And wipe the scum of this city off the face of the earth. Permanently. I love what you do. I never want you to stop. I am your biggest fan. Notice me. I'm going to make it impossible for you to ignore. Notice the billboard. Are you the Horseman? Text yes to 88388. It's only a matter of time until curiosity gets the better of you. And we can meet. Imagine what we can accomplish together. Get back to me, horse. I know you need this as badly as I do.
What is up, everybody? We are live for another Rippaverse Roundtable. This is our third, episode of this over here on the Rippaverse channel. And today we're going to be talking all things Horseman. As to be expected, because at the end of last week, we finally put out up for pre-order, the first issue of the Horseman, issue number 1. You guys had a lot of fun with the graphic novel that we put out. Welcome to Flores Park. You seem to enjoy it a lot. So, of course, we got Chuck to work, Joe to work. They said, look, we're going to do this thing. So now we have ourselves a little ongoing series, and this is the first issue, which is up for pre-order right now. And today we're going to be talking all things Horseman, as I mentioned. I'm going to go round table, introduce everybody here. First and foremost, I have to start with the creator of the Horseman and writer of the Horseman. Welcome to Flores Park. Alpha Core, so many Zaylen, which is up for pre-order right now, as well as the Great War of Separation. Brother Chuck, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Doing good, doing well. Glad we're off to a little hot start there for Horseman, issue number 1. Really excited. Just glad that the audience had a lot of fun with that first one and that we were able to justify another one. They had an absolute blast with it, and this is closing in. I know we hit the 3,000 book mark. Do me a favor, Carol, after you get through hugging, first of all, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, and then I'm gonna have you, if you could text our dev,
yes,
to update the cache, because the books updated are still stuck at 1,800. To my, depending on what way you put it, I guess to my left, we are joined by Carol Brown, who is the executive assistant over here at the Rippaverse. Carol, how you doing?
I'm good. I was here in the back before we even made the link.
Yes, that is true. As soon as we said we're talking Horseman, she showed up before I made the link because she loves her some Hector, and
Sweet
that is absolutely awesome.
Horseman's biggest fan.
I am. Yeah, I am. That guy that says he is, like, I'm gonna fight him. I'm the biggest fan. Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna text the dev now.
Shout out, Carol. Of course, we're joined by concept artist. He's developed. He's my right hand man. He's developed a lot of the characters that you have seen and been introduced to. Alpha Core members, Brian and such, who appear in the Horseman book as well. Marcos, brother, how you doing?
Doing fine. First time I think I'm officially live in anything related to Rippaverse. So
yeah. Everything we've
here.
done has been pre-recorded. All the Control Z, like the podcast that we do, that's all been pre-recorded. So yeah, that's a good point. This is your first time live with us, Marcos, which is absolutely awesome. Yeah, in front of the camera too, right? So big shout out to Marcos. Thank you for, of course, joining us. And yes, we're gonna talk everything Horseman. I'm gonna pull up some images and whatnot. We'll talk all of that good stuff. First and foremost, again, these numbers are not updated. She's going to be updating, Dev will be updating these very soon. But of course, we have, as usual, we got our books, we have CGC copies, we have Caden shirts, we have a poster right here as well. Of course, we have plenty of bundles. You want to get the first book, The Horseman Welcome to Florence Park, you can grab that as well as part of a bundle. All that good stuff is available. I have it pinned in the comment section. Well, no, it is in the comment section. I'm looking at it right now. It is pinned there, so you can go check that out. But let's just get into, I guess, rather the meat and potatoes. Chuck, the Horseman, awesome character, obviously. If you want, please, I know I've asked you this question a million times, but just for the sake of this podcast or show, please walk us through kind of either the conversation that happened behind the scene, because this was one of the first characters that you and Joe pitched to myself and completely conceptualized by the both of you. So I would love for you to walk us through how that even came to be, that the Horseman, I guess as a character, Hector as a character became to be.
Well, we were working on Alpha Core 1, Joe and I, and we were going back and forth all day long, private messaging each other. And he's sending me sketches and pencil pages and blah, 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 blowing my mind. And somewhere along the line, he said, you know what Eric needs? Eric needs a character who doesn't have superpowers. He was a mass vigilante working on his own, independent, a Batman Punisher type character. Yeah. So the wheels started turning. I've done a lot of that character before, and I'm like, I love that genre, obviously. Yeah. So I want to create a new character for the Rippaverse, but I want him to be different.
Right.
And Hector Caballero, I think, is very different than Frank Castle or Bruce Wayne. He has people in his life that he cares about, people that he wants to protect, and he's got a few of his own personal demons he's working out. So I think it's a very different kind of character.
Yeah. And I love that about him. I know we've talked about this in previous streams that, some of the characters, for example, that you mentioned, have these loved ones that they've lost. That really sends them on that trajectory. Whereas with a character like the Horseman, you have these characters that he obviously cares, his family, that he cares deeply about, that are still alive and well. And that creates a entirely kind of different dynamic that I really love with how the story unfolds, because he's having to take that into consideration with pretty much every action that he makes. And like I said, I love that approach, and that we didn't have a character like that. And I think it was a high demand character, to your point. You knew how to handle them, so that was not going to be a problem at all. So it was a no-brainer for me. Once I got the first pitch, I saw the original design, which I really liked. I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. Let's give it a shot. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, and I think we've even discussed this before, Chuck. Look, we didn't know that it was going to be that big, right? Like, we had no idea. Like, that was, for us to come out swinging the way that it did, talking with 13,000, I believe, books sold on that Welcome to Flores Park. And I was like, wow, that was a little unexpected. But it did show that, again, the Rippaverse did need it. So I'm highly appreciative of that pitch. And it is awesome that we've got the universe to a place where original characters are able to be, kind of put forth out there to the audience. I absolutely love that. But I know I saw one of the coolest things about this character, definitely being it kind of not just obviously new to our audience, but this was a character that was very new to like us as far as the Rippaverse is concerned. And what I mean by that is very early on, there were several artists that were able to take, I know my camera's moving around, y'all. There were several artists that were able to, like, obviously they had their rendition of the character, which is the coolest thing to see, right? Obviously, Joe was the first that we saw of it. Right here, we're looking at Kanan's in that original cover. And I loved seeing everybody's adaptation of it. It was really, really cool in the various covers. And obviously, like with a guy like Kanan, you got the Will Conrad cover right there that Carol was showing. So you have all these industry veterans, and I'm seeing their kind of style on it, as well as you had that animated version that we saw pretty early on as well, which was really cool. And I love how that turned out. For you guys that don't know, Chuck obviously wrote that kind of script for Tuna for that. And he actually was able to speak directly with our animators, and we sat down and kind of talked about who this character was. It was really, really cool to see that. But seeing like Caden and Joe, obviously, and you got Will Conrad and some of these artists that have been around the block give it a shot with this character was so fun to see. I absolutely loved it. And I'm just, again, this has been a hit character. Everybody's asking for figures. They're asking for everything, stuff that I'm like, all right, go slow down for this character. But if you can go into some just a little bit of detail about that kind of first story, right? That first story, obviously, Welcome to Flores Park. You created the general concept of the character, and you started him coming from like another city and then entering into the city, hence the name, subtitle, Welcome to Flores Park, entering into Flores Park, which had, as far as our universe is concerned, a lot of already established stuff. What was the ideal with that approach, and what I guess led you to do that?
Well, I kind of wanted to make him an outsider. He's not a Texan. He's from a
right
fictional town called Drescher. It's like a Great Lakes town, like Detroit or Chicago. And he kind of gets run out of there. He creates so many problems for himself that he's got to move himself and his family down to Forest Park, where he thinks he can basically start up again under a new guise. Because when we first see him, he's not wearing the same costume, the same
right. There it is.
He is when he becomes the Horseman, and he just moves to Forest Park, and everybody's familiar with the Rippaverse knows this guy's got no powers. He's going to run up against the law in Forest Park, and the law in Forest Park, they're excepts. They have superpowers.
Right.
And how are they going to feel about him? And that's a lot of the story going forward is how does he exist in this world where he is outgunned, outnumbered, and outpowered?
Yeah. Yeah, it's as capable as he is. You see that at the end of Welcome to Flores Park when like Braxwell comes through, you see there's still a gap, right? Because he's not an except. There's limitations to what he can do, but I think that in itself just makes for a very, very intriguing story. Obviously, I'm showing up right here. This is one of the first scenes that you see in Welcome to Flores Park, which you can still get. You can bundle it up if you have not got it at all, but you can still get just live in the store. And I absolutely love this scene. I feel like this was such a commanding scene right here with this double page spread, which is telling the audience, like, yeah, this guy's for real, number one. And also Joe's not playing around with just his pencils on this. And man, what a way to start out. You mentioned, that's why I wanted to pull this up, because I knew you were going there and mentioning that, look, when we first get introduced to this character, we like he has a different kind of suit, right? And I'm not going to spoil obviously where the story's going, but there's stories to be had about that in itself. But you see the character, he is very much an outlier. You have this whole scenario that goes down, and then we move to basically him telling his family, like, look, got a gig, we're gonna get out here, we're going to Flores Park, right? And then obviously the rest of the story kind of takes place there. So speaking of the dynamic, you have, yes, guy without powers that is a vigilante, rather, is going to run into some issues. But we also have this established universe with Alpha Core, with Xeps that are already there. We know that they exist in Flores Park, hence why Alpha Core even exists in the first place. So a lot of what we dealt with in the first book in the Welcome to Flores Park, the graphic novel, is how does a character like Hector fit into all of that, right? Like how does he fit into a world where he is, again, as capable as he is, he does not have those superpowers. So you had him, obviously you have his family members that you obviously created alongside them, that he's tasked rather with kind of protecting there, right? And they really do need him. What was the concept behind creating them?
Well, I wanted, I mean, you've got characters like Bruce Wayne or Frank Castle, and they're on a revenge trip.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the vengeance trail, and that's not so much the case with Hector. He's his loved ones are still with him. He's more trying to provide for them, and the only thing he's good at, or he feels that he's good at, because of his military background and everything else, he was part of a special forces team, is basically fighting evil, using his talents as a soldier in the war on crime. And it doesn't hurt that he's able to scoop up a bunch of, illicit cash to help pay the bill. And the character's kind of complex, because is he really doing this for all the right reasons? Or is he doing it because he's just driven? This is the only thing he can do. And he's working out a lot of his own problems. So he does a lot of justifying in his life. I mean, he has to lie to his family about why they're moving to Flores Park, but he justifies this because he feels he's got to get them out of danger, and it's for the best. And so he's a guy who creates a lot of problems for himself and then has to work his way out. I mean, a lot of readers at the end of Welcome to Flores Park are probably saying, well, how's this guy going to go on? I mean, he can't compete with Alpha Core.
Exactly.
Well, you'll see in this story that, we introduce a lot of new elements.
Oh yeah. Lots of them.
Origin is basically what it's all about.
Right. So I got to ask, Carol, because as soon as we were introduced, we all were introduced internally to Hector. You fell in love with him. So I have to ask, just personally, what was it about? Like, obviously, you're a writer, about the character that was so intriguing, right? Because everybody's gravitating towards their favorites. You have like Saska's and theirs and some of the other guys that have the characters that they kind of gravitate towards. What is it for Carol as far as falling in love, rather, in more ways than one, with the Horseman?
It's a couple of things. I've always found vigilante characters to be like really cathartic, especially like in a society where we're told what we can and can't do. And sometimes you just want to hit somebody in the face, but we're like, no, that's against the law. Right. Mm-hmm. But so it's kind of like an internal release when you actually get to like read about a character that's like, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. Right. And I always appreciate a character that has like the power of gun. Right. I feel like that's a very like underestimated like ability. Right. And I also really like how Hector, every time he like goes into a situation, he does enough like thinking to be like, this is how I get there. And then he's like, I'm just going to shoot everybody until I figure it out. Right. Like, that's just what he does. But I think the really big thing that kind of sold it for me was the fact that, he does actually have a family. And even though he kind of keeps secrets from the family, his main priority is to make like a better place for them. And he's just doing it the only way that he knows how. It's slightly broken logic, but it makes sense for him. So that kind of like appeals to like the vet in me a little bit. Yeah. So yeah. And he's cute. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Marcos, just really quick. Obviously, you've had some. You've helped develop some of these characters, design some of these characters that do end up appearing in Alpha Core, as well as obviously the Horseman, and thus the Horseman as well. From your perspective, like what was it like seeing some of these characters in that setting, right? And like, okay, here's Brian, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I got some slides and stuff that I'm going to show, and then he shows up in a book like a Horseman. Like, what was it like seeing that dynamic? And again, these are characters that you help design.
Well, I gotta say something that always struck out for me was specifically the color schemes. Not
Mm.
people might not really mention that a lot, but I feel like the colors on these characters make them like pop out more, like more interesting. At least in my point of view. Specifically the Horsemen, you got the blacks and you got the very like deep blues, and that's the first thing that like me as a reader, because I didn't really, I know you say I design a lot, but for Horsemen I didn't really do much. That
Right,
was
right.
Joe and Chuck. But for Horseman specifically, the first thing that caught my eye was the way he looks. You know, the suit, the colors, and then the fact that he was holding a gun, killing everything. I was like, well, that's something interesting. You don't see that often in superhero, comics and stuff. But nowadays, at least, and that's really honestly the biggest impact for me. Because most of the time, I've been designing all of these heroes.
Hmm.
They could have their capes like Brian. They could have their more generic, in a sense, heroic,
Hmm.
yeah, giddy ups, yeah, however you want to say it, and their personalities. And then you have suddenly you throw in this horse guy, which, by the way, I didn't actually know that he was referring to the chess piece,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
horseman, until later on when I saw fans talking about it. I was like, wait a second, I thought he's just gonna have a horse or something to ride. Turns out it was just the. Then I realized the helmet. I was like, okay, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
But to see that, like, he was a pretty cool addition, especially with the whole. Because people are used to the whole Batman theme, like heroic. You don't kill. You don't do nothing very specifically violent. But then this felt like something fresh, kind of ironically speaking, because you wouldn't really call killing, fresh. But I don't know. It's just something about it.
Yeah. It
But
does
yeah,
hit,
that's pretty much it.
like it does hit like
Hmm.
differently for sure, as far as a beat is concerned, in comparison to some of the other characters that we designed, which is why I think that he was such a great addition, for not just for our sake, but for the audience. Okay. Because the audience sees this and they're like, wow, we got this character. We have our ISOMs, he's at a different, going down his path, right? Recently retired, doing his thing. You've seen Brian and Alpha Core and Ingrid and Braxwell, and they have this whole dynamic that's happening as well. You got the wild card and a Yaira. And then you have like, you want a guy, and I know a lot of people have asked for that. Like, what about a guy that he just kicks ass, right? Like he very much just goes in, just kicks absolute ass. And I love that contrast, because a lot of even people's first introduction, while they did see Joe's art, they saw Kanan's art, that animation, you saw him in action, right? And it really set the tone for, I think, almost perfectly for what we ended up seeing in the book and Welcome to Flores Park, because he kicks, right out the gate. He's dropping in on the baddies, as we all saw earlier, and he's swinging, he's throwing hands right out the gate, and I love that about it, because that's just really embodies, in such a short period of time, really embodies who that character actually is. Chuck, I know we've talked about it many, many times. Looking at like, or working with a Joe from a storytelling perspective, what is it like working with him? Because I know every artist is different. They have, as far as what that writer especially is setting them up with. Like, what has it been like working with Joe? We know we have other books that are in the works as well with Joe. We got Alpha Core. We also have obviously Zaylen, which is up for pre-order right now. But just in general, what is it like working with a guy that's an absolute workhorse like a Joe Bennett?
Well, I mean, first of all, he's incredible talent, and he's also one of those rare comic artists who has a really illustrative style, but he can also tell a story. His stuff, his pages move, and I think Alpha Core was like us first getting to know each other, and you know, it turned out great. But then Horseman, we're more in sync. We've all more learned about how to work together, you know, and what we expect from each other. And you know, some artists you just write the script, send it off, and they draw it. You never hear from them. But like I said, Joe and I are back and forth all the time. It's very much a collaboration, which I appreciate. You know, he'll ask, you know, can I do, well, you know, his main question, can I turn this into a 2-page spread?
Yeah, yeah. He loves those damn spreads.
That was the question I had, because when we were going through the pages, I like DM'd Eric, and I was like, "There's like 10 2-page spreads."
Yeah,
in
like
here.
yeah, she did. He was like, "What do you think?" I was like, "Man, let Jill do his thing, man. Like, let him do his thing. He loves those. Let him do his thing, and the fans love those. Like, you know, they absolutely love those. To your point, Carol. But yeah, like seeing how y'all hit it off so well, Chuck, it was a no-brainer for us to obviously have you guys continue to work together. But again, this is like you guys are forward thinking, and I just with you being a veteran and being, is that like a rarity where you just click with a guy like that to where y'all are like very collaborative? And I say it all the time with a character in the Horseman as well as Zaylen. I didn't create those characters. Like we didn't create those characters. Me and Marcos didn't. These aren't characters that we created. These are characters that you guys pitched at us that, hey, the Rippaverse could use this, and you know, here they are. So how does that generally work, at least for you and your experience of being again, veteranship is just, you've been around the block. Is that something that where you and an artist just sometimes click? I know we have obviously Graham, who you've done a lot of work with. He did a cover for us with Yaira. But just how often does something like that happen where it's like, this guy just gets it and I want to collaborate with him?
Yeah, it's not all the time. I mean, I've got a lot of longtime collaborators like Graham or Gary Quapis. I mean, I had that kind of vibe with, you know, Flynn Henry, with Rodolfo DiMaggio, with Jorge Safino, guys like that, where we got each other. We knew, you know, we understood what we both wanted out of the project. And, you know, they were, you know, we were down with each other's visions and ideas. And I'm always open to what the artist has to say on a story. I welcome that because they spend so much time and so much effort. You know, I'm just thinking of the stuff. They've actually got to make it come to life on the page. Right. And I respect that. So, yeah, it's not all the time. And the other component of this is you can't do this kind of work, no matter how great your collaboration is, unless you're working with people who have faith in you. And I mean, Graham and I were able to do a lot of terrific stuff on Batman because the Batman office had faith in us. They knew we weren't going to let them down, and they kind of let us go crazy. And, you know, Rippaverse has let me do the same thing. Eric, you're allowing Joe and I the freedom to just go nuts on this stuff. And I think the enthusiasm shows through in the work.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, right? Like that forward thinking is almost like I don't want to say almost, it is one of the more fun things about this whole entire experience and us building the Rippaverse, because while yes, up until now, the majority of the characters have been you know, conceptualized by myself and Marcos, right? And now we're moving in this direction where people are starting to get their legs up under them, and they're coming up with these original concepts that are, you know, obviously Taylor making them for the Rippaverse, but they're still very much their original concepts. And it's cool to see that enthusiasm, and it makes it just really easy for a person like myself to obviously work with you absolute professionals, because it's like, by the time I got it, right, by the time I got the Horseman, y'all had him pretty much fleshed out. Like, it was like, this is what we're thinking. This is what he's about. And I'm like, okay.
One thing, it's a story I like to tell when people like ask me about the Horseman when we go to conventions and stuff like that. But like when Chuck initially like sent in like the whole script and everything, he was like, "What do you want me to tone down?" And Eric was like, "No, you can kill more people. It's fine." Right? So that's why when we initially launched the Horseman, we called it Chuck and Joe Unleashed, because they were so used to being told no or tone it down or something like that. We were like, "Nah, man, like you want to, yeah, jump into the factory and kill everybody in there. That's totally fine if that's what you got to do." And that it's a great book. I'm not biased at all. It's a beautiful book.
But it is rare. I mean, usually, not all the time, but a lot of times when you're in comic book publishing, especially in independent publishing, if it wasn't the publisher's idea, they're not interested. Like everything
Right.
has to be their vision. And Eric, you don't do that. You're
Yeah.
just like, here's the playground. Here's the toys. Have fun. And you've got a lot of terrific creators. I mean, nobody's phoning it in. I mean, the Saskas are Energy Plus. You got a pro like me, like Mike Barron, and we just appreciate being let loose to create. And it's been a tremendous experience.
It was, again, like that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure we started this company. I wanted everybody to have fun with it. I get it. There's going to be maybe some tedious elements of anything that you do that's for work, but ultimately I want people having a blast here. And I think having that you have that creative freedom where yes, there are confines that force us to be creative, like we got continuity and things to worry about, but ultimately it's about like making that make sense and doing things that make sense obviously for our universe. And it really doesn't matter if you weren't able to do that in the past, right? Like to Carol's point, where it's like more of you guys being unleashed. For us, that was what it was all about. It was like, these guys know what they're doing. Okay, like I don't need to hover over them. Only thing that I'm here to do, I'll make the corrections when we need to, when there needs to be some sort of like okay, there's a continuity thing or something the Saskas caught, right? Where it's like, we need to catch that. But ultimately it's about you guys being able to see your vision all the way through, and then rewarding you guys being rewarded for that, like the audience does, right? Like when you see something like the Horseman, this is his first appearance in Welcome to Flores Park. That was the first time that the audience like gets to really experience this in that book, right? And they came out like crazy with it. I mean, even now it's something nuts. Like you don't go 13,000 books sold, and we're already even now almost at 4,000 already for the Horseman #1 as far as this ongoing series is concerned. So I believe that that's a result of, for sure, to your point, Chuck, just letting you guys do what you know how to do. And I love it. I love everything about it. And to see you guys as enthusiastic about it gets me stoked on it, as not just on the editorial side, but on the writing side. There's obviously things that I'm always picking up from Chuck. Little events. It's been cool, fun to collaborate. It's fun to collaborate, obviously, on the Great War of Separation as well. But just seeing these guys be able to, guys that have been around the block, and also me, just on an individual tip, learning obviously from them as well, is something that, again, I'm going to be looking back at this for years to come as just, man, lucky, right, to be able to be in this position. So I actually, want to let me actually back up. I had this slide that I wanted to share here in a bit. So what was, and by the way, this is one of the spreads here. We talk about 2-page spreads and Joe Bennett, but I love the shout out to Joe Brown on the colors as well. This is one of my favorite scenes from the book. Just going in, absolute guns a blazing.
Power of gun.
Right. Guns blazing. I love it. It's incredible. But you had, and it made all the sense in the world because you wrote the first book in Alpha Core, right? It was your idea to kind of include them in this story. Was that one of those like, hey, I'm already writing these characters, I familiarized myself? Like, what was the intention behind bringing in like a Brian and Ingrid and Braxwell, and they played like definitely in the latter half of Welcome to Flores Park, they played a pretty integral role.
Well, I wanted to show, that Flores Park is, it's a real environment. It's a real 3-dimensional living world. And of course, as much trouble as Horseman was making, they were going to get called in. The Alpha Corps is going to respond to this. You don't send regular cops into a meat grinder like this. You send Alpha Corps. So of course he was going to have to run into them. And then, he suddenly wakes up because, as Caro said, he's not a guy that has a big plan. He's he's a chess piece, not a chess player. So He sees these guys, they're flying, they got electric whips coming out of them. He's like, man, I gotta change my whole game plan here. I
I need
can't
to
do
gun
it.
harder.
Yeah. I got to make my gun poo stronger. I can't do what I did in Thresher. This is a new town. I got to figure this out. And in Horseman #1, we see that someone comes along to help him figure it out.
And that's awesome. Now, again, it was cool to see because you have Horseman, like some of these villains that you obviously created within this. You got Tuna, we got Blitz, these characters that he's gonna have some trouble dealing with. Obviously, Braxwell comes in. It's a little different for him because he can handle himself. But, and I'll go ahead and pull this up right now. You do have them. I mean, they got a little talk, right? They rather had a little talk with him, like,
right.
Hey,
I know there was talking. I didn't see it because shirtless.
But no, they had a little talk. Like, look, man. You can't be doing this. All right. Now, to be fair, yes, exactly. And to be fair, it's like, while yes, you're taking out all these bad guys, and he did get, I guess we can kind of talk about that before we go into that, Chuck. He gets caught up in an interesting situation because he's having to deal with these crooks, right? That are basically using him to do various things, and they kind of got onto him immediately as he got into Flourish Park. Before we go into talking about Alpha Core and their involvement, what was it? What was that about? What was the line of thinking with that?
Well, again, I wanted to show him as a guy. He doesn't look before he leaps. He just thought, well, I'm just going to set up business here and do what I did. I'm going to bust, human traffickers and drug mules and everything. I'm going to take their money. And I'm gonna, pay the rent, and buy my nephew a PlayStation, and that's really as far as he thinks. And I think a lot of this with Hector, even when you're writing a character, you don't know everything about them until you go along. It sort of develops in my mind as I'm working on it. And a lot of this is he's just creating noise to distract himself from his real problems, his real deep-seated problems, his post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
And he's doing that, and I think guys can really,
for sure,
relate to this, where you just keep moving, don't think about that, just keep moving.
Yeah.
And, he's just that kind of guy, and of course, it's going to cause all kinds of problems for him, which it does. And I think that's the fun of the series is, can this guy get himself out of all of these problems he's in? And I just keep, writing myself into a corner over and over again on this.
And that's what's awesome to see, because again, he's dealing with actual consequences, okay, to his actions, not just in, again, how it's going to impact his family, which is what he's trying to take into consideration. But yeah, you go in guns ablazing, like, especially in a city like Flourish Park, it's different, right? It's going to have its share of blowback. You have Alpha Core, you have the Tunas of the world, you have his crooked cops. It's a lot that he's having to kind of face in terms of his reality, right? And to your point, which does get explored a lot more in the upcoming book, in that you learn kind of why he's the way that he is. Going back and really telling stories of the past, which I think is really going to connect with the audience. There's going to be a lot of people that feel us on that. So there's obviously layers to this character who's in a city that in itself has layers, which is what I love so much about this scene here, where you have before, and I don't have that pulled up, Braxwell comes in, he helps him out, kind of he's dealing with the Blitz and those problems. And now we have Alpha Core, who's acknowledged his existence, and they know he's a thing, and they're like, bro, you can't go around acting like this. Like you just can't do this, right? Now
I always like his face too, because it's like they tell him that he's like, yeah, he's gonna do it again.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay, I got you, I got you. And yes, there will be more. There will be more problems, obviously.
Well, I mean, the other aspect is that when he breaches a door, he doesn't know if on the other side of that door is going to be MS-13 or the Legion of Supervillains.
And that's what I'm saying.
He's
In
like,
the
there
late-
be bad guys on the other side of that door. I'm gonna figure it out once I get in there.
Yeah, well, that's his line of thinking. But yeah, like you can imagine that's something to deal with in a city like Florida.
All bulletproof.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, so he's dealing with these, like, I don't know who's on the other side of this. I got these XFs, I got Alpha Core I got to deal with. I have again, might be some gang members who may be a little more easier to deal with, but it just is a whole lot of problems. And that's what I love so much about this. By the way, big shout out to Caden. I love this. I love this cover that he did, Candace Hahn, as well, because it tells so much. You guys are gonna see this just random images thrown together on this cover, but without too much spoiling it, because we did already announce. We talked about Buxton, right? And it was a perfect introduction, I think, to that character. Everybody that I've seen, again, our fans love that trailer, right? And you have this guy who is like, look, I can help you out. You have some shortcomings. You're not Bruce Wayne. You don't have endless cash to just buy a bunch of gadgets, right? And try to get the job done. It's not how it works. Was that like like what was the purpose with introducing like a cow? Though again, we can't spoil it because you guys don't have the book yet. But having that type of character be introduced at this particular time.
Well, like I said, I love the vigilante genre. I want to work in it, but I don't want to do a carbon copy of other vigilantes. I want to do something different. And I've never seen a vigilante who is funded by somebody else. Basically, he's sponsored like a NASCAR driver by this guy Buxton. And of course, nothing is what it seems. So you know where the story's going from here. But even that creates complications for Hector that he didn't foresee, because he never foresees any complications.
Yeah, that's him. He goes in, guns blazing, and
you
whatever
got money
happens.
for gun? Oh man, we're friends now.
I just thought that was a fresh take on a vigilante thing, where basically he's sponsored by someone else.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to pull up some of Joe's art in a minute. I mean, again, we got a lot more consistency here with Fabio Jansen. Big shout out to Fabio, who is the inker. Joe prefers him. Obviously, that was highly requested by he himself. And it was really cool to see. I have even some line art on some of the between Joe and Fabio. This is one of the preview scenes that you guys see over at Rippaverse. You see the colored version, but you see this. And obviously, you're like, wait a minute, that's Hector, War Store. What's going on here? You got to get the Horseman, number one, so we can talk about that type of stuff.
Right.
But seeing some of this work come back, to me, I feel like they're getting better. Joe and Fabio, right?
Yeah.
With Horseman, even from Horseman to Horseman I Welcome to Florida Spark to Horseman number one. Like it's I felt this was like working with Caden, right? Marcos as well, right? Marcos has been here from the get-go. So it's been the same thing where you get these guys and they're drawing these characters over and over and over and over. And they get better at it. Obviously, they put them in this new setting. And then when they're working alongside, maybe it's an inker, maybe it's another writer, you start to see that passion sort of come through. And some of the artwork, you're really going to see it in Zaylen, especially. Some of the artwork in that book is absolutely insane, the level of detail. And Joe loves to do that stuff. He loves to do this stuff. And
it's crazy.
yeah, he is nuts, right? Like you kind of got to be a little nuts.
He loves drawing stuff other artists hate drawing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to define.
Oh, like the ship? Yeah. He like you guys are gonna see it when Zaylen comes out, but like Joe like drew like this intense ship, and like we were kind of like, do you want to do that? Because you have to do it on every panel. And he was like, yeah.
Funny. I was asked to design that for well, not kind of design it, but like to draw it from the pages into a design, so the other artists
for the concept art, yeah.
And I had trouble doing that because
I can imagine.
Yeah,
that's got to be fun, right? Because you have to. For you guys that don't know, when we say Marco is our concept artist, he is our concept artist, right? Like he's coming up with original characters, but he also has the responsibility of making it neat so we can showcase this, even if he didn't create the character like Horseman and all these other characters, so we can present them to other artists, whether they're doing covers or what have you. And yeah, I can imagine doing some of Joe's work and try to adapt that, Marcos. That has to be fun.
I
To
also
say the
really
least.
And you
like
had
how
to help me, yeah.
I really like how sometimes, like, because I get to review the scripts and I like watching like Chuck talk to Joe, right? Because sometimes he's like, I'm thinking this, but that, but you have to draw it. So like, have fun, right? And then it's kind of, and then I'm like, I wonder what he's gonna do. And then like the page shows up, and I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
Yep.
Well, it's been a few times with Joe where I'm like, Joe, you're working too hard. Like, there was this one page where the characters had to be isolated from other people, like no witnesses. And he in the background, he draws this whole neighborhood. And I
Yeah.
said, everybody in that neighborhood can look out their window and see what's going on, Joe. Just have nothing in the nothing in the background. And it's like, okay. And then some of the characters, particularly for Zaylan, I was like, boy, these characters are way too complicated looking. Really simplify them because you
Yeah.
have to be drawing them over and over and over again. And what he did with that ship, I said, are you sure? You wanna draw this?
You gotta draw it every single time it shows
Oh.
up.
He said, what you said? He said, what you say, more? Add more? I got you. Goes
More
back.
detail. Got you. But yeah, like it is crazy to see. And you're looking at some of his pencils here on this scene where he turns around. And yeah, just a level of detail, be it in the background and all that stuff. He does, and I talk to Joe a lot. He really is having a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it's obvious.
And yeah, it is. It shows in his work that this guy is just having an absolute blast with these characters in this universe. And I love to see it because it makes for some very, very again, just interesting stuff like that's happening where I'm like, Zaylan, especially when people see that alongside Marcos's cover, other Marcos's colors is just insane. How that book is turning out, man. It's just so cool. It is. While I still have Joe here, I'm just gonna fly through some of the Chuck. We got, I guess IJ became a member. 1992 space movie, became a member. Mr. Reese says The Horseman Welcome to Flores Park is my favorite book so far.
Wow.
Well, I love to see that. Whatever that book may be, everybody's gonna gravitate towards their favorite. So find it. Like I keep saying, even if you are one of the guys that maybe hasn't got in on the Rippaverse yet, perfect time. Figure it out. Carol has her favorite. Everybody has their favorite characters. You'll find it if you have not already. Our Brownwich with a 10 says, stop trying to have a favorite Rippaverse character. Every time I get a favorite, you guys throw me a new story. I love. That's a good problem to have. Great work, says thanks for the continued storytelling. Great teamwork. Dogeman himself with a 5 says Mr. Caballero has a habit of running head first, guns blazing. Expects are one thing, but how will this powerless mortal fare against demons and ghouls? I guess we'll for sure have to see. He's up against it. Just say that many times in these future books, and how he gets out of these situations it's just fun. It's fun to see. It's absolutely fun to see. Before we get you out of here, Chuck, I would love for you to discuss just a final pitch, if you will, with Horseman finally getting his ongoing series, which everybody demanded immediately. What they're gonna get for the first one. We've got 48 pages of this. This first one's gonna end up being 56 when it's all said and done. What do you think the audience is gonna get out of this book?
Well, if you were curious of how he's going to, go on after Welcome to Flores Park, well, here's your answers. And it's a lot more about, there's all the action you could possibly want. I mean, bullets flying and everything else, but we get to see a little bit more of his past, and we get to see a little bit more of his everyday life, in his as Hector. But again, that's not to say that there's not plenty of action, because there's plenty of that. I will never deprive you of plenty of action. But,
Joe
you know,
wouldn't allow it anyway.
yeah.
To be
We go a little deeper on his character, because I think that's what separates a good comic, a great comic from a good comic. Is, you know, we go a little deeper. My job is to make you really care about all of these characters, and that's what I sweat more than anything else. And so there's a lot of that here, like putting in layers for this guy, so you understand, you know, he's not just a jock, he's not just a vet. You know, there are layers and nuances to this guy that I hope will keep you fascinated for a long time.
Yeah, and guys, you're gonna want to get it. I appreciate all of y'all pre-ordering it already in the first few days, closing in on almost 4,000 total books sold, over $100,000 in total sales already. Thank you all so much. You're gonna want to pre-order this book. Chuck, I appreciate you stopping by as always. This is I mean, you got what right now? We got like 3 books from Chuck that are all up for pre-order.
How
They're
terrible.
yeah, exactly. You got the great. He's a workhorse. You got the Great War Separation. 2, you have Zaylen, obviously that graphic novel. What Kills Must Die, as well as the Horseman, which just went up for pre-order. So, Chuck, appreciate everything you do, and yeah, we'll be in contact, brother.
I'm having fun. I'll be here till the wheels come off, my friends.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I love to see it. All right, Chuck. We'll see you. Peace out.
Take it easy.
Of course, man. Big shout out to Chuck. I know he got froze up there. I will handle it there. But
Is that a pun, by the way, Eric?
one more time.
Was that a pun that you made?
Oh yeah, I didn't mean to. I guess I kind of did. I didn't mean to. I guess I'm a poet and I don't know it. But big shout out to Chuck. He's a workhorse. There's a lot of other work that he's working on. I know a lot of people are excited about Alpha Core #2. I know Marcos did a lot of designs there for that book, and I can't wait for you guys to get a hold of that. In addition to Zaylen and some of the other pieces of work that he has, so go pre-order that. Go pre-order Zaylen. Go pre-order Great War of Separation as well. Now, let's get to some of these super chats.
Super chats.
We have Mark. Any chance for a fan creation contest? See, with submissions like that legally, it's always an absolute nightmare, right? So that's why we don't do that type of stuff. And you don't really see a lot of other companies do that as well. Like publishing companies, it just like you're walking a fine line there. Like that's why we don't accept like just general submissions and stuff like that, but just because it just creates so many different issues. So kind of shy away from it. So wouldn't do something like that. I would be up for doing another maybe fan art contest or something like that where you guys are adapting our characters. I would be up for doing some more of those. Those are always fun.
We haven't done one for like a year.
Yeah, I know it's been a while.
Yeah.
We're overdue. We're 1,000% overdue for one. The Ray Infinity Show with a 2 says Horseman needs a buddy like Casey Jones. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. So Lazy with a 10 says, where's my Horseman 12 scale? I guess action figure with Arsenal and motorcycle. I wasn't aware that we were doing one of those, but I know people want figures they for sure of character like that, because I mean you can imagine just the type of swappable parts that you can do with a character like a Horseman would be. It'd be an absolute blast. Yeah, it's just you could just give them all the weaponry and all that stuff. It'd be a very fun
army
time.
of horsemen. I'm into this. Let's
exactly. Christopher with the 10 says Horseman was the first Rippaverse comic, and by chance can all covers be textless and posted? Well done.
I think that's 2 questions.
Wait,
was Horseman first?
Wait, Horseman was the first Rippaverse comic.
No, that was Isom.
Maybe he's saying that was his first Rippaverse comic.
Oh.
I'm not sure. Maybe he says by chance can all covers be textless and posted. I mean, every now and then we post like 1x1s that'll have like cover our, just follow our Rippaverse page or the Instagram. We post those all the time. We did do our first version cover for the Horseman Jack Jackson cover, which will be nice. Which will be textless. As well as special application. So you're gonna really see that it's gonna be tricked out. So grab that. Anime expert with a two ISOM or salvage or Horseman crossover comic. The crossover stuff is interesting because obviously you have characters that appear in other people's books naturally because they're in the same city, they're close in proximity. All that makes sense, right? I'm for all that. Horseman, Alpha Core shows up. Well, he's in Flores Park doing all this crazy shit. Of course, Alpha Core is going to show up. It makes all the sense in the world. But I think like a lot of what we're doing is we're telling these more contained stories right now. And the reason is because we got to get you to know these characters. And I won't lie, it can be a little enticing to try to match, especially where like the major publishers that have been around for 80 years, and you're trying to get to where they're getting, but you always have to keep things in a perspective. And it's like it took decades to get there and to make that make sense. Well, we also don't want to make any mistakes, right? Well, it's not to say that we won't, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't want to write ourselves into a position where we have to rely on crossovers, we have to rely on events for people to get intrigue. So we're really taking our time with that, and we're telling a lot more contained stories. So that doesn't mean that you won't see a character appear in another character's book. Bloodruth, you kind of got to know why and how Bloodruth knows Gooding, which you kind of first got hold, or rather you became knowledgeable of that relationship in ISOM number 2, and in Bloodruth number 1, the Saska's made more sense of it. And stuff like that makes sense. And Michael and Lillian appear in that book, right? And it makes all the sense in the world, but you don't consider that like this big team up or anything. And we just want to be very precise about how we do that type of stuff, because we want it to feel rewarding when we do get to that point. And maybe there is a big event and there is a big crossover. We just have to make it make sense. And in order for us to do that, we have to get you to know the characters individually, right? So we can create all these new characters, and sure, maybe there's an Easter egg or something that references another character, billboard of Gooding in the background or something. You'll see that, and it's fun. But let's tell these stories. Make sure that you know exactly who these characters are before we start going crazy with all the crossovers. And even though we know we'd make a killing off of them, people love the merchandise that'll be associated with it. We just want to make sure from a storytelling perspective, we make this thing make sense. And it's going to take time. It is going to take time. I just read that. We Goku with it too. Says, yo, Eric, are the yearly memberships on the way soon? I keep forgetting the time. It's fun. I had a meeting with my devs today, and I completely forgot to mention that.
They're still working on it. I checked.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So that stuff is being worked on. We're trying to get there. We do want to give you maybe discounted yearly memberships so you can pay. Don't have to worry about it. Charge your card constantly. We want to work towards that. Anime expert with a 2 says, how would Horseman handle Fontano?
Power up gun.
That's interesting. Well, you saw what happened with Tuna, and Fontano is like way kind of higher up the food chain there than a Tuna. So it would be some interesting stuff. Let's say that. Cam K with a 10 says, shout out Arkansas and West Texas. I haven't read Horseman Welcome to Flores Park yet. It's on my list. I will be getting Horseman number 1. What's the difference between Horseman Welcome to Flores Park and Horseman number 1? Well, they're completely different books.
This is Horseman, a standalone.
Yeah, it's a standalone graphic novel that we put out, tested the character, beginning to end story, all that good stuff. Horseman number 1 is a new book that starts the ongoing series. So that's the major difference between the two, though it does pick up obviously from a lot of the events that happened in Welcome to Flores Park. So don't have to worry about that. Marcos, I know we haven't had you here that often, but again, a lot of people don't know that. Yeah, I know. Again, this is the first stream that you've done with us here. you have been working with me since the company was conceptualized, right? You were our concept artist, and I love for you to give the audience insight on that moment where we come up with the characters, Yaira, Isam, all this. Audience knows absolutely nothing, and then it explodes, right? What was your thinking? Because I know I didn't know that it was going to blow up the way that it did with Isam number one. But you see your characters that you helped design, they become these beloved characters that a lot of our audience just thoroughly enjoys. And now we're here. The company's grown a lot since then. What was going through your mind? I mean, then versus now.
Well, that's actually kind of hard to like explain it. I guess I'll just say, I'll be honest, I never expected it to blow up this hard either. Like, we were like in the dark back then. Like, we started through emails. I don't know if
Yeah,
you remember. I
yeah,
contacted you through because you were looking for artists or something on YouTube. You posted on the YouTube status thing, and I sent you an
right.
email, and we're like, okay. The same day you answered to me, and we
Yeah.
immediately started working together. Um, it's something else, man, because I remember the first thing you talked about being Isom. You
Hmm.
told me about the character, and you gave me the Isom sketch, which is
Hmm.
probably the most famous thing we have the Rippaverse,
Yes.
which I could reveal anytime, but I'm not gonna because
He
you know
does have it. He's the
NDA.
only other person that has it.
And it was way before like the like most of the stuff wasn't even in the concept stage. You were just
Right.
telling me you have these ideas. This character looks like this. He's gonna have this color with his hair, and back then, since I wasn't really officially working in any of this type of I guess work line, I was just doing commissions, random commissions with
Right.
people.
Right.
When you came to my doorstep, basically, it was like a whole new experience because I stopped treating it as a commission per se and started to uh, step by step consider it more like a future job opportunity thing.
Hmm.
And then when you launched and you I think it was before you launched, right? You contacted me about being, full time and
Yes. Yeah. I
offering me
was
the
there.
actual
Yeah.
position
Right.
because you mentioned to me how important it was to have this because not the companies don't really have a concept artist per se.
Right.
They just do like Chuck said, where it's just this script, then they give it to the artist, they do what they do with it. But you told me about how you wanted me as an integral part of the team, just to be making sure that the concepts are there, make it easier for the artists to handle the stuff. And the first day ISOM launched, I tell you, I didn't actually believe what was going on. I didn't actually understand what the hell was going on. I just woke up all of a sudden, this guy blowing up on Twitter, blowing up on all social media, like $1 million. I'm like, what? I went immediately to check on everybody on the team on the chat, and apparently we made a big banger. I
Yeah.
was like, well, okay, that was unexpected. Now I feel like crap because my designs, the initial designs were like a little bit more sketchier than now. And
Yeah.
it's like, damn. Uh, of course, you understand what I mean. Now I do
Yeah.
my designs a little more detailed and more there's more to them than. But back then it was just like sketches of your
Right.
ideas, just
Right.
to bring them into the paper. But once that happened, it was something hit me like, wow, this could be something. This is something,
Yeah.
you know. And then we hit 3 million. I'm like, what was it like 2 day, 1 day, 3 days? I don't
Yeah.
remember. It's
Yeah.
like no time.
It hit it so fast, and yeah, it was like I was scrambling. So I know everybody else was because I'm trying to keep it together.
We were all like,
Uh,
"What's going on? Does anybody
yeah,
know
like
what's going on?" I was like, "I have 700 emails."
it, it was, oh man, it was something else. And I love that a lot of, we've added people obviously along the way, like Kara, that have been integral parts of our team. But what I love so much about it is that a lot of pretty much everybody that was here from that day one, right? Even if they were in a more of a part-time setting, uh, are still here to this day. And we're still working, we're still grinding, we're still getting the job done. and it's so fun. I love it for Marcos because I know Kanan's always stressing this point as well with you. Like, these are your characters, man. Like, these characters, like the characters that you created. Like, Yaira is a very much a character that you help create. Like, you get a creator credit for that, and it was cool for me, and I loved it for you, and I loved it that again we have, I think, just from a workflow standpoint. And you're right, like obviously not that many companies have someone that's like on staff doing that, right? Like usually they'll commission someone to do it, but like on staff just doing it. But we're finding that a lot of the artists appreciate that. You have a lot of conversations, like for example, Chuck, like, hey, what do you think about this? I heard, this is how you decided that he needed to look. I got this sketch. What do you think about it? Chuck comes back with his feedback or whatever, like, oh, this is great. Or hey, I'm thinking more like this. You go in, we change it. And so it makes it a lot easier for them, which makes it a lot easier for me as well, especially once I'm giving like these assignments, right? Putting an artist on this project or whatever, because it's all tight and neat, right? There's nothing up for like, there's no confusion there. It's like they know who the characters are. They know exactly how they're designed. And that's why I was like, I think this is a very important piece here that we have, and having you here. And yeah, some of these characters that you've helped design, like all the characters in Yaira, for example, like you get creative credits for all of those. And you take a big lead on these characters, man. And it's got to be cool to see, those characters that you helped design. And
I want to say nice things about Marcos too. I want to do it too.
Well, he is awesome. He is awesome.
Well, no, I think one of the things that's undervalued, especially with creatives and artists in general, is that at one point they become like, they reach like a wall, and they're kind of like, okay, this is where I can stay, right? But it's when you push and you try new things or styles or methods and stuff like that, where you get to learn and get like outside your comfort zone. And sometimes you become uncomfortable with the project that you're doing. I have literally been watching Marcos like since like we've like gone full force and everything, and he is always trying to be better. And even when he's got like a design where he was like, yeah, I did this and it was okay, but then I was like, no, it's trash, and he throws it out and starts completely over it. Like, he literally talked about it in one of the podcasts. It was the Halloween one, because you did one picture and you're like, no, it's trash, and you just did it.
Oh yeah, the Sydney one.
Yeah. And that's really commendable, because like, as not that I would say names, and Eric wouldn't either, but we've definitely worked with some artists where like, yeah, this is like, the best that you're ever going to get. We're like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he obviously approaches it professionally, and he approaches it with passion, and it shows, right? Like, he's a big forward thinking also about, because he has two tasks there, right? He's trying to design the characters, but he's also having to package them in a way for the entire team to be able to like grab them and do something with it, right? So as an example, again, a lot of people don't know this about his job, right? Where let's say that we do have an artist that we're putting on a project, and no matter how many pages that it is, like, Marcos has it all neat and ready for him, right? We got a concept art folder with that character, right? That's ready to go. They're good, so they don't have to wonder about really anything, and it makes it so easy for them. It makes them like they're going a little quicker. We already have our designs worked out as far as who the characters are, or rather how they look, and nothing's up really for a whole lot, is not up for question. Sure, they have their own spin on it, as any artist would, but they for the most part already know kind of what they're getting, and it helps so much, because I know I message you all the time, Marcos, like, even if it's a cover that someone else did, like a Kanan, right? And I'm like, all right, I got to get this to a colorist or something like that, right? Like to do it. And Marcos is like, all right, cool. I got a folder. Here they all are. Here's all the characters that are on it. And so it's it. I just, I make them bang, got the link, send it to them. All right, here's all the characters you need. And they're so appreciative of that. And that's why I think having someone like a Marcos on the team is so just crucial. And like, now with the workflow, I don't even know how in the world we'd be able to do it without someone like a Marcos making this tidy and neat for us. So he's such a crucial part of our team. And like I said, he's been here from day one. Quite literally day one, before y'all even knew this was a thing. Marcos was there helping me design these characters. And I love, because like I said, I tell a story all the time that
I talked about sketch, guys. He's seen the sketch.
Yeah,
Marcus
yeah,
is seeing the sketch.
yeah. He knows, right? But like difference between like Marco, like excuse me, like with the Isum and the Yaira, right? Where it's like obviously I sketched that one, but with the Yaira, I was like, okay, I had the all right, got her powers, I got what she's gonna hair stuff, like I got all that worked out, and then
Wow, that's it.
right. And I was like, all right, here, I want you to really I remember saying that almost verbatim. I was like, I want you to take lead on her core design there outside of like I got these got the again, I got who she is, I got her powers, I got like race and like all that stuff is like hair, like colors, all that. I got that. Everything else, like you take lead on it. And you came up with this design that is just right there behind me that oh man, it's just so good and I know everybody loves it, but it's been awesome to work with someone that gets it because it's also like Marcos is in my head. So I got like I try to be as thorough as I can. I know not always the most thorough, but I try to be as thorough as I can to communicate what's up here. And he just gets it. He just gets it. He just gets it so much. And obviously, again, we love him having him here. I see Caden is also in the chat. Big shout out to Caden there. So where am I at? Hold on. We got Screaming Vain with a 5 says, y'all are the reason I'm writing comics and creating my own universe. Shout out to you. I can't believe how rewarding it is. So hyped. Thank you for inspiring me. Appreciate that. Dog's drinking water. KMK with a 10 says, I appreciate the explanation. I can't wait to read both. You're gonna love it. Start with Welcome to Florida Spark. Since you already got that, go grab the Horseman #1 right after that, and you are going to be good to go. This is a lot of people's favorite story. They love it. Let's look at Jordan in the chat. Says, I'm here to the end. Cancer can't even get rid of me. That's true. She's an absolute trooper.
She killed me with that. I was
Yeah.
also, the shirt to help her is still in the shop.
I was so close to wearing that shirt. I was so close to wearing that shirt.
Twins.
I know, right? We would have been matching. I was so close to wearing that shirt. I was like, I rock the Braxwell shirt. Why not? Okay. I believe that wraps it up for the super chats there. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you all. Big shout out to Chuck who was able to join us. Want to talk everything Horseman. I know we had a lot of catch up stuff that we needed to do for like spoiler talk and stuff, and now we can just talk just random things and not have to linger on for 3 hours. So thanks for your continued.
I'll stay 3 hours to talk about.
Well, yeah,
Horseman.
I'm sure you will to talk about Horseman.
Yeah.
That would be a very easy thing for Carol to do.
Guys, he's perfect.
By the way,
so good.
Speaking of Carol, this shipped today.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Every time like one of the delivery people would show up, I would like wave all the boxes.
Carol's first piece of work, the Rippaverse issue #3 with Dirty Deeds. You're gonna love this story so much. It is. You can still get. There's not that many. I almost did a video today talking about. It's like only 200 of these left. So you might want to go ahead and grab these. They're still in the store. These are shipping. A lot of y'all started to get notifications. See, Junior's in the chat. He says, my copy is arriving tomorrow. Yes, you're in Texas, so it shouldn't take that long. So please do your reviews, right? Remember, you want this to turn into something longer form.
You have to say something.
You got to talk. You got to say something. So be loud, do your videos, all that good stuff. Let us know how you feel about Dirty Deeds, okay? But this is shipping today, or she started shipping today.
Oh, can we tell the story behind that cover you just had?
Go ahead.
So like the blue cover, we originally were going to have that be the poster, right? But the second it got done being colored, like Eric came into the chat. He's like, we're pivoting.
That is true. That is very true. That did happen. We were going to do that, which Kaden also did. The wanted poster was, I believe, what we were going to do back there was going to be a cover, and it would have looked lovely. But I saw this come back the way that it did, and I was like, nah, like this is the cover. Like, this is the cover. Like this right here is the cover. There's no way this is not the cover. And I also loved how if you see it in person, just how this pops. The luminous just really helped it out, man. It just looks so good.
It's so nice. Yeah.
And big shout out to our pre-press guys. They do a phenomenal job with these layouts and stuff. So yeah. Big shout
He
out
took on
to
4. He took
yeah,
on 4 covers. I think Carol would have been fine with that, right?
Yeah, we
yeah.
could
That's
have,
true. We
you
could
know,
have.
we could have done a lot
Yeah,
more. I'm
yeah.
just saying.
That's true. That's true. You're not wrong.
We
We could have did a
we
lot.
could do a cover with somehow Hector on there. I don't know how that crossover would work, but I would figure out
Hector
a way.
Hector in
meets
space.
yeah, Hector in space, I guess. Yeah.
Horseman takes space on. He found out there's gangbangers in space. He's like, I gotta go.
Oh man. But yes, guys, we're gonna bounce up out of here. Thank you all. It's been fun. It's a really fun night. Appreciate y'all. Again, big shout out to Chuck for joining us. We had Carol as well as Marcos, our concept artist, here to talk everything Horseman. We'll be back next week. We'll probably have a full team again next week as well. So what we'll be talking about, I'll let you know as we get closer to that. But thank you all so much for the continued support. We have Jake, who also just confirmed, said with a 5, says, just got my email that Rippaverse shipped. Can't wait to read. Dirty Deeds again. You never know. We love to do those review videos. So do those reviews. You may show up in one of our videos talking about it. Discuss Dirty Deeds. Have a lot of fun. But we're gonna get up out of here. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Go grab the Horseman #1. Go grab the Horseman Welcome to Flores Park if you have not already. But we got to get up out of here. Till next time, y'all be easy and yeah, peace out.
Bye, friends. Bye.
Bye.